Can you explain? That's a really good point. Can you explain to everyone why your accent is not going to go away and why you are okay with that?
I've been speaking Spanish for 40 years now, and the way we pronounce things is different from English. So I cannot change that easily. Maybe I could get like a coach, like an accent coach or pronunciation coach, that is going to change the way I move my mouth, the way I pronounce things, but that's going to be very, very hard, really hard. And I'm okay with it because um, even native people, if you talk to Australian or British or American, the accent is different. So why should I worry about my accent if there are already different native accents, right? So I think it's just one more. Like, okay, you have American accent, my friend has British accent, and I have Spanish accent. That's it. That's fine.
I'm Teacher Mike, and this is the sixth episode of my podcast, English Conversation with Teacher Mike. Our guest today is special because not only is he a language teacher, like me, but he's also someone who has learned English as a second language, just like most of you are doing. So, David, thank you very much for joining me today. And could you please start by just telling everyone a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got started doing it?
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is David. I'm a Spanish teacher from Spain, Barcelona. And I've been teaching Spanish for 10, 12 years now online. And in Thailand, I was in Thailand for 10 years teaching Spanish as well, and a little bit of English. Basically, I started working online because of COVID. I had to do something while we were on lockdown. And we decided to open this online course, Spanish course. And it's been going on for 5 years now. This is the fifth year. So, again, thank you for having me. And I hope you can understand my English well.
And so you learned English as a second language. So can you tell us how or when did you first begin learning English?
Okay, so in Spain, we start in school. When I was in school, we started in the third grade, and now they start earlier. But at the time I was in school, it was in the third grade. That was the first time I learned English. We didn't learn like a lot in school, so I had to find ways to learn by myself as well. So I did more by myself than in school. But everybody learned some English here. What I did was basically switch the TV to English, listening to a lot of music in English. Everything I did was in English, especially traveling. Traveling was the main thing that made me want to learn more English and made me serious about learning English.
And so how old were you when you became serious about learning English? When did you start really trying to improve?
The reason why is extremely superficial. So I took a trip with my brother to the north of Spain. We like surfing, so we just went there and we rented a room, and the room was shared with four girls from Australia, Ireland, English speakers, all of them. And they were all having so much fun, except me and my brother. So after we spent 4 days or 5 days there, the owner of the place told me that one of the girls was trying to flirt with me for 3 or 4 days, and I had no clue. And then I had to leave. And then I realized that, okay, I should learn English probably. Before that, I don't think people in Spain see English as something useful. We don't see the application of it. So that's why we don't do it. We don't really take it seriously. It's like when you learn chemistry in school. If you're not going to work as a scientist, you probably don't think it's important. So you just do it to pass the test, and that's it. So it was after that trip, I was 19 at the time. After that trip, it was when I thought, like, okay, this is something that is real. People really speak English. And then I started to really, really get into it.
That makes sense. Sometimes people ask me, like, Teacher, can you make a video explaining why it's important to learn English?
Mhm.
And I'm never going to do that because I don't think it is important to learn English unless learning English is important to you. Like, it's not something where I can tell someone, you need to learn English. That's your decision to make. For some people, it might not be important. And for some people, the reason why it's important might be something that's not so serious.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I feel. And it happens to everyone here. Like, no one speaks English here, even though we study it in school, but we don't see the application unless you have an experience. Like in my case, I was lucky, I guess, that I met this group of people and I realized that, okay, this is actually useful. If I didn't go to that place, if I didn't meet these people, I would probably never learn English. I had no use for it. And after that, then I started to travel and do more things. And then I practiced more. And it was something real. It was something that I could really see working.
And how would you describe your current level of English?
Well, if I was making my resume, I would say advanced. But being honest, I think like maybe the higher side of the intermediate level. I can communicate fine. I understand everything you are saying and everything people say. I can watch a movie in English. I can listen to a song in English. So I think it's like I'm like fluent in English. I don't need to think, I don't need to translate. That's why probably I make a lot of mistakes. But I think I'm fluent, but grammatically probably not in the advanced level yet.
I think that's a really important distinction to make, where you said that on a resume you would list your level as advanced, but being honest with yourself, you're more upper intermediate. People don't really understand how advanced is getting to like the uppermost level of a language. That's a huge challenge, and I think it's a lot bigger than most people realize. People don't realize like how many small little details there really are, specific things you need to know to really call yourself advanced. And it's also why I think for a lot of people, making that level your ultimate goal isn't always the best option, because I think for a lot of people it's not always a realistic goal depending how much time and resources you have.
Yeah, I feel like in Spanish is the same. Like when people ask me or tell me that they are at C2 level, I always tell them C2 level is a native person and probably a teacher who studied the rules. And normal people are not at C2 level sometimes, most of the time. And I guess English must be the same or similar.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like there are people who have who I've met who have learned English as a second language and then become an English teacher, and their English is better than the level of many native speakers because they have spent the time learning all of these details. And people don't understand that in order to be able to just communicate really well and live your life, you don't need all of those things, and it's not necessary always.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with my level right now. I can have any conversation with anybody, so I'm fine. I'm okay. I will always have this accent, this Spanish accent. That's never going away. So I think probably I can improve some things, but I'm happy with what I can do, what I can understand, and everything.
Can you explain? That's a really good point. Can you explain to everyone why your accent is not going to go away and why you are okay with that?
I've been speaking Spanish for 40 years now, and the way we pronounce things is different from English. So I cannot change that easily. Maybe I could get like a coach, like an accent coach or pronunciation coach that is going to change the way I move my mouth, the way I pronounce things, but that's going to be very, very hard, really hard. And I'm okay with it because uh, even native people, if you talk to Australian or British or American, the accent is different. So why should I worry about my accent if there are already different native accents, right? So I think it's just one more. Like, okay, you have American accent. My friend has British accent, and I have Spanish accent. That's it. That's fine. It saves me from telling people where I'm from because as soon as I speak English, everybody says you're Spanish, right?
I love that answer. That's a really good way of explaining that. And I think that's really going to help a lot of people understand that accent is really, if it's important to you, it's important. But in general, it's not the most important thing. And yeah, like you said, it's really about when we say that someone has an accent, what that means is that they have spent most of their life speaking one language one way, which means that they are used to, like you said, moving their mouth a certain way, moving their lips a certain way, putting their tongue in certain positions, using their voice and their throat a certain way. So your whole body is programmed to move in a specific way. And when you say that you want to get rid of your accent, you're trying to cancel years and years of programming of your body. And that's just really difficult. And I don't think a lot of people really understand what that means.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know I can, like that, like I told you, I could get a coach to teach me these things. But for me, a language is a tool to communicate. So it's not my priority. Like, I rather learn something else and improving something else than the accent. The accent, I don't think. Also, I feel like it's like what gives color to the language. Like, I don't know. It's different. I like it. I like my accent. I'm fine.
Yeah, like you said, it tells people where you're from. It doesn't mean that your English is difficult to understand. Obviously, I understand everything that you're saying perfectly. But when I hear you, I know, oh, okay, he's from Spain.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're pronouncing anything wrong. It just means that your speech muscles are used to moving a specific way. So you sound a specific way when you speak English. How long did it take for you to really start feeling comfortable speaking English?
I think after I left, after I left Spain and I started traveling and I went to India first and then I went to Indonesia and I met different people and they all spoke English like with an accent and sometimes broken English or wrong English and everybody was fine and we just understood each other. I think it was when I started to feel like it's fine. I can speak English fine. I can understand everything fine. And at some point, I didn't need to translate in my mind. I could just say things slowly. But it took a while. It took quite a while to get used to. Especially for me, it was more the listening, I think, because in my mind, I already knew English from school. But once I got out and I heard the real English and real conversations, then I realized that I had no idea about English. And it was like starting from zero again. And at some point, I don't remember the exact point or the exact time that that happened. But I think around 1 or 2 years after I started to leave Spain and getting out of Spain.
I want to go back to the first thing that you said because I think that's really going to help a lot of people. So, you said that you began feeling comfortable with English when you were with other people who didn't speak English as their first language. No one had perfect English, everyone had accents, but you were still able to communicate. There's two really important things there. One is that it reminds people you don't need to have perfect English to communicate. You can have an accent. All of these things are normal. All of these things are fine. The second thing is that you don't need to practice with native speakers if there aren't native speakers available for you to practice with. And maybe you will be more comfortable if the people who you are practicing with are not native speakers because they are going to be making mistakes also.
Exactly. That definitely was my experience was like that. Like when I saw that everybody was saying whatever and didn't care about the grammar and we were just understanding each other, even I knew that okay, that sounds wrong, but it's fine. And everybody was just speaking and communicating. That was when I realized that I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to. Yeah, it would be difficult with a native because I feel, and probably a lot of people feel like you are judging us, our English, our skills. But I don't think that is the case. After I spoke with a lot of people and a lot of native people, that is never the case. But we feel that way. We feel like, okay, that is his language. He's probably thinking about all the things I'm saying wrong, how I'm pronouncing this, and things like that.
It's interesting because, yeah, a lot of people think that native speakers of a language are the ones who are judging them, but often it's other learners who are the ones judging or being critical. And if a native speaker is judging you or being mean to you or something, that's not a typical person. That's someone who's probably either maybe racist or just hasn't ever tried to learn a language themselves, so they don't understand that it's difficult. But that's not typical. Most native speakers are not judging people. And I think that's true of probably every language.
Yeah, that's what I found out after I got my confidence and I started being more comfortable speaking English. And then I met native people and I started talking to them. Nobody was saying anything. They were just having a conversation normal. It was fine and it was fun. And that's where I learned most of the things by listening to them. And then oh, I was saying this wrong the whole time. This is how you should say it. This is how you are supposed to say it. But they never said a thing, never said anything. So it was really nice. But it took some time to get comfortable. It's a difficult thing to be able to speak with confidence in a different language. You are never sure 100% if you said something right or wrong, or if somebody is going to say something or judge you. You're never sure.
I want to add one more thing there before we go on to the next question. So you kind of mentioned that you're not always going to know when you're saying things wrong because native speakers are usually not going to correct you because it's rude to correct someone's language unless you have asked them to correct you. So what I want to remind people is I get these comments every day saying like I need a native speaker to correct my English. I need to have conversations with native speakers because they're going to help me. No, they're not. Like they might if you ask them to, but in general, no, they're not because they're normal people, not teachers. What you want is a teacher. What you want is someone who you are going to pay to help you correct your mistakes. Normal native speakers are not going to do that for you. So, everybody, just remember you don't need a native speaker. You need a speaking partner to practice speaking. That could be a native speaker or a non native speaker. And if you want someone to correct your mistakes, what you really need is a teacher, not just a native speaker.
Exactly. And also, I think that probably if I'm trying to speak a different language and someone corrects me, I might be fine, but some people might feel offended. Like, why do you have to correct me? Did you understand what I said? Then that's it. We have the two sides, like people that want you to correct them, and people who feel like, oh, he's correcting me, so I'm doing things wrong, so I'm gonna stop. So I don't correct anybody in Spanish normally unless they are my students and we are in a class. But even when we are doing only conversation, if I can understand, I just keep going and then I tell them at the end, okay, we can improve here and that thing you said. But during the conversation, I don't stop them.
That makes a lot of sense. And I have this same problem as an English teacher when I meet someone who's not an English student. It's just someone I meet in the world, and they're speaking English like perfectly. But I can tell that it's not their first language, and we're speaking everything. Everything's going really well. And then they make one really small mistake. Sometimes I want to tell them just because I can see how hard they have worked to get their English to that level. And I'm like, wow, if I can just tell them this one little mistake that they made, they might really appreciate that because the next time they have this conversation, they won't make any mistakes. But I never do it because correcting people is often considered rude. And in my head, I have this little battle. Ooh, should I try to help them and do it in a really friendly way so that they understand that I'm only doing it because I'm an English teacher and I see how hard they've worked? But no, I'm not going to because it might just make them angry.
Well, yeah, that's what I mentioned before about learning and being comfortable with English. When I talk to native people, I was listening to them and they were not correcting me, but I was just paying attention. And then when they said something in their own conversation or they like said something that I said before, they just repeated the same thing I said before, but in the right way, not correcting me, but as a continuation of the conversation. Then I inside was like, oh, that's how you say it. But they never say like, no, no, say this instead. No, they just repeated the same or try to put it in the next sentence or somewhere. But I could see that some of them were trying to help me by doing this. Just keep the conversation going. And then the same thing you said before wrong, I'm going to say right now. And let's see if you can catch it.
Are you still focused on improving your English nowadays, or is it just something where you just hear some things each day and learn a little bit more, or do you actively study or anything like that?
Well, I keep trying to improve and learn new things, a new vocabulary, and new words, and everything. My wife and I, we speak English at home. She's not a native either, so our English is what it is at home. But yeah, I try to do it in a more casual way. Like I love like to watch videos on internet, like short videos. Watch movies always in English, original version. All my books are in English. The cartoon for my kids in English. Everything is in English around me. But I just don't have a teacher. I'm not doing classes because I don't have the time. And also, I don't know if I had a teacher, how much they would be able to teach me. But I enjoy learning things. Every day, I try to write down things I learned today, watch things in English every day. Yeah, I try. I think, like languages, if you don't keep practicing and trying, it goes away very quick. I've been in Spain for 5 years and I speak English way worse than when I came back.
I lived in Thailand for 10 years, and I came back to the US for just 6 months before going back to Thailand for a short trip. And I noticed that just in those 6 months, when I returned to Thailand, I could still understand everything that I heard mostly, but I couldn't get the sentences out of my mouth all the time. Even though my wife is Thai and we speak Thai every day, we don't have those same conversations that you have in your daily life with people who are not your wife. So you're not using the same language. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happens to me here in Bangkok. Everybody was from different countries, so we spoke English all the time. But now, since I'm here, I'd say 80% of my conversations are in Spanish. Plus, I'm teaching Spanish, which is a big part of my day. So the only person I speak English with is my wife, and I have a friend from the US, from Boston, and we talk a bit every day. But that's it. So I really have to try hard to get like some input, some English input, like the TV, music, books, anything. But yeah, I do try to keep improving and at least to maintain, to keep it as it is, to not lose it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Is even if you're not necessarily interested in improving your skills in a language, just reviewing it a little bit each day to make sure you don't lose it is still really useful and takes less time. Um, Other question, when you watch movies or TV shows in English, do you usually turn the captions or the English subtitles on or no?
I don't, but because I feel like I already understand everything when they speak, and also because I want to focus more on the way they say things. And if I'm reading, I'm not listening very well. I'm more focused on the reading than on the listening. So I don't turn on the subtitles or the captions. No.
Okay, I like how you said that when you are reading, you are not listening, because that's what I always tell people. When I started making videos for social media, I didn't expect people to understand everything that I was saying because that was not the goal. The goal was just to give people some stuff that they could listen to every day to start improving their listening while learning a little bit, even if they didn't understand everything. And people kept saying, add subtitles, add subtitles. And I was constantly telling people, if you're reading, you're not really listening. And there's some situations where you might want the subtitles, but when your goal is to improve your listening, I think generally having them off is good.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, when I came back from my trip to the north and I changed my TV to English and everything to English, I used to watch The Simpsons a lot because in Spain they were like every day at lunchtime we got The Simpsons on TV. So I watched them many, many times. I knew most of the dialogues and everything. So the first thing I did was just listen to them. And the first day I understood nothing, nothing. It was like Chinese, Japanese, any other language. But the more I kept listening, the more I was getting. And it was like, okay, the first day was 5%, but the second day, 7%, 10%, 20%. And at some point, I didn't need to read any subtitles. I didn't need to do anything, just listen. So it takes time to get your ear used to a language too.
I want everyone to notice how he just said sometimes he would only understand 5%. So people often say, like, I only understand 70%, I only understand 80%. 70, 80%, that's amazing. That's really good. And it's useful. But even if you only understand 5%, it's still useful because you're becoming used to the sounds and the patterns, what the language sounds like. You might not understand a lot, but you are absorbing the language. You're not learning like vocabulary always because you don't understand it, but you're learning how things sound so that it becomes easier for you to listen to them in the future, especially when you hear the same words again and again and again, even if you don't know what they mean. When you do learn what they mean in the future, you're never going to ask, how do I pronounce this word? Because you've already heard it 1,000 times.
Exactly. So that's what I mentioned before that for me, the biggest challenge was listening. It was because in my mind, my English was perfect. But once I got to listen and hear the actual English, I didn't make the connections between the words I knew or I thought I knew and the actual sound. It was later when I heard the same word a few times that I made that connection. And I was like, oh, so what he's saying right now is what I thought it was like this. And it wasn't, but it's the same word. I just didn't know. So yeah, you need to get your ears used to it.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting. It's like in Thailand, they had lots of pronunciation problems with English where I would keep saying a word and they would have no idea what I was saying. So then I would pronounce it the way that Thai people say it, and they'd say, "Oh, okay." Like, yeah, you need to listen, and then even if you don't understand everything, listening is still really useful. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced learning English, and what did you do to overcome them?
In Spain, the I don't know if that's a right name, but there's a lot of like a toxic community. Like when you really try to speak properly, they will laugh at you, your classmates, uh, even your family. If you try to speak a different language, it's like weird to them, and then they laugh. They just think that you are a nerd or you are trying to be like posh. So that was a very, very big challenge to not care about what they say or if they laugh, uh, because at the end of the day, you are learning something that they don't know. And it's funny because I think like they don't do that with any other subject. Like if you say one plus one is two, nobody laughs at you and say, huh, one plus one is two. But if you say, for example, the color purple, they will laugh at you. They say, oh, purple, purple, because that's not a sound that we have here. So that was one of the big things.
So This is something I've talked about a lot, but the advice that I've given is just general advice because it's not something that I've ever experienced. I myself, when learning a language, have never felt uncomfortable or embarrassed because people are trying to make me feel bad. You actually have some personal experience with this. So, what advice would you give to anyone who feels uncomfortable because friends or family are judging them or laughing at them or something?
Well, at the end of the day, you have to think, why are you learning the language? If it's your goal to learn the language, you cannot care about what everybody thinks. At the end is people that are ignorant, that they don't know something, trying to make a person who knows something feel bad. So to me, it's just a weird thing. So at the end, I just felt like that, like, okay, you want to laugh at me, it's fine, but I know something you don't know. So yeah, I know it's difficult to put it into practice, but you cannot care about these things. You will never learn if you care about what everybody thinks. And this happens I know that this happens in a lot of Spanish speaking countries. We just have this culture where when somebody's doing something better than you don't like it. And then you have to put them down and you have to, like make them feel bad about it.
That's essentially the same answer that I usually give people. So I'm glad to hear the same thing from someone who actually has experience with it. Thank you.
And then after that, the challenge, like the actual challenge, like the technical challenge, would be pronunciation. We don't have as many sounds as you do in English, and it's really hard. Like we are not ready for these sounds. We are not ready. I don't know what to do with my mouth, like we mentioned before about the accent. I don't know what to do with my mouth to pronounce a few things. That's why uh, we speak English a specific way. We just don't have the tools or the practice to pronounce this. That's been really, really hard for me. Really hard.
What advice would you give specifically for Spanish speakers who are trying to improve their English pronunciation?
Well, like you have to really, really listen. And even if it sounds weird to you, copy it. You just have to copy anything, even if it's something that it doesn't make sense to you because you are reading one thing and you are listening to a different thing for you. You just copy what they are saying. That's why a lot of listening is very, very, very important. Very
So
much.
so you're saying when you see the word and you hear something kind of different, stop focusing on what it looks like and just focus on repeating what you hear?
Exactly. Just repeat what you hear the way you hear it.
Lots of my social media followers tell me that they don't practice speaking because they don't have anyone to speak to. What would you say to those people?
I think right now it's not difficult to find ways to practice your English with anyone you want. There is people waiting to talk to anybody around the world. I think it's more about your priorities. Like if you really want to, you can find a way to practice. There's people everywhere. Uh, when I was younger, when I started, it was more difficult, but still I could find a few ways to practice. But it was still a challenge. I had to travel, go to a place with a lot of tourists, or go somewhere where I could actually meet people. Nowadays, I don't think you need that. You can just go on Facebook. You can go on any apps. Maybe you have, if you are really serious, you can get a tutor. You might need to pay if you want to have like stability, like every week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Because when we do this exchange, sometimes it doesn't work out. But at the end, I think it's about the priorities. Like if it's an investment, if you see it as an investment for you can find a lot of ways to practice with people.
Is there anything that has helped you stop being afraid of making mistakes in English, or that you've seen help your students to become less afraid of making mistakes when speaking Spanish?
Yes, for me it was what I said before about the non-native people speaking English and making mistakes. But besides that, also what I think it helps, and I tell all my students to do, is try to make them. Don't fight them. Actually, try. I always tell my students have a mistake goal every day. Like you have to make 10 mistakes today. You have to speak Spanish or English until you make 10 mistakes. And then you write them down. That way, you get two things. One, you will see that every day takes longer to get to 10 mistakes. And the second thing is that you stop caring that much. You just see the mistakes as something normal, something that you have to go through. And it really works, at least with my students. They started with 10 mistakes a day, and now they're doing like three because they don't get to the 10. I'm talking about the advanced students.
I like how you said as they keep doing it, they see that it becomes more difficult to make 10 mistakes. So, what you're saying is that they're seeing their own improvement. By forcing them to try to make mistakes and making fewer and fewer, they're really watching themselves improve each day. That's super interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have 1 hour classes, and we had to remove or like decrease the mistakes because they were not getting to 10 anymore. It took a while, it took months, but yeah, they can see the improvement. But the best thing is that they are not afraid anymore to make mistakes. They are actually trying. They are trying really hard to make difficult sentences that they are not sure about, just to see if they can get to 10. So that way, when you speak to somebody and they correct you, or you see that something is wrong, just say like, okay, great, I have my first one. Let's go for the second. And you have to get to 10. So you don't see it as a penalty, you see it as a goal, as a something to look forward to.
That's super interesting. And I want to add one thing just in case, because I feel like when we talk about making mistakes, there are some people who don't completely understand this. You shouldn't be making the same mistake that you made earlier. When you make a mistake, your goal should be to learn something from it and hopefully not make that mistake again. So when we say make mistakes, we're not saying you should try to say things that you know are wrong. What we're saying is that you should be brave and try to say things that you're not 100% sure about, because then you might make a mistake and learn something.
Exactly. You have to find that sweet spot between something I know is right and something I know is wrong. You have to find a way to say something that it might be right, but I don't know.
Exactly. It's something where you feel like this makes sense to me, but I've never heard anyone say it and it feels a little bit weird, so I should just try it.
Exactly. When I see my students making sentences and I ask them to make a sentence, I always tell them, if you are too comfortable with this sentence, don't do it. Do another one. Don't feel comfortable. You need to think that something might be wrong. Might be, not for sure.
And it brings us back to listening a little bit also, because if you're listening to things and you understand 100%, you're not learning anything. Yeah, you're helping yourself keep the language in your brain, but you're not learning anything because you're not challenging yourself. And the same is true with speaking. This is what you just said. If you're constantly saying things that you know are correct, you're not giving yourself an opportunity to improve anything. So, yeah, super interesting. Are there any other routines or habits that you've found helpful in improving your English or that you've seen helpful with your students, like things that people can do every day to make it a part of their life?
Well, yeah, what I mentioned before that I was doing the TV, switch the TV, switch the phone to English, switch everything you can, just switch it to English. Everything you touch every day, everything you do every day, switch it to English. The email, you will learn a lot of vocabulary, you will learn a lot of things. And also, I like one thing that I also tell my students to do is keep a language learning journal. Like every day, just write 5 or 10 words you learned today, or a piece of grammar you understood or a phrase every day, just write it down. Writing down, I think that it helps a lot with retention, so you will not forget. And something I like to tell people too is go on Facebook and find groups about something you like, not English, a hobby, but find a group in English, because that way you will learn and you will read things about something you already love in English and you will be way more interested. For example, if you like gardening, find a group in English about gardening. If you like video games, same thing. That really helps. And it's something that you actually want to check every day and you want to learn about it.
Such good advice, all three of those. I think that was three things. All super super useful advice. However, I want to go back to the journal. And actually, what I want to add here is not really related to the question, it's more related to motivation. So, you mentioned writing down sentences, not just sentences using the language that you learned, but sentences talking about what you learned. Like if you write, Today I learned how to pronounce this word correctly. I've been struggling with it for a couple weeks and I finally figured it out. Or I finally understood why people use past perfect tense today. Lots of people say, I'm studying, I'm studying, I'm studying, but I'm not improving. And the truth is that they just don't know that they are improving. But if you keep this journal at the end of the week or the end of the month, you can just open it and read. Oh, yesterday I learned this. Wow, that's really good. Oh, 2 days ago I learned this. Wait, I am improving. And it's not like some magic thing that's suddenly going to help you, but it helps to keep you motivated and understand that progress can be slow, but you are improving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need to sometimes see what you have done and remember that you did it.
So then I kind of mentioned motivation right there. Do you have any other advice for what people can do to stay motivated when learning a language?
Yeah, well, the motivation is completely personal. It depends on every person. It's not the same for me than for anybody else. So, yeah, you need to have a clear goal, what you want to do, what do you need the English language for, or any language for, how are you going to use it. I think it's important to see the application as well. Like, you have to see that it's real, like what happened to me. Up until I saw it was real, I didn't care much. So I wasn't trying. Once I saw that, okay, I can meet people, I can have a lot of fun, then it became real. That motivated me to do everything. So that's very, very important, but it's personal. It's completely personal.
How important do you think it is to learn or memorize grammar rules when learning a language? Specifically, memorizing rules, not just learning sentences and how to use them, but really thinking about, oh, why do we do this? How do we do this?
To me personally, this is a personal opinion. To me, grammar is quite important. I see grammar as a guide, as an instruction manual. So you will need it to build sentences the right way. It's like if you go to IKEA and get some furniture box. If you don't get the instruction manual, can you build it? Yes, but it's going to take very long. And you're going to have to make a lot of mistakes and you're going to have to maybe take it apart and start again. So I think the grammar is like the instructions of the language. It helps you understand the language in a deeper level. So you can actually use the language by yourself using the rules instead of just repeating. Do you need it to learn to speak the language? Probably not, but it's going to take longer. It's going to be more difficult. It might be more frustrating as well because you will not know why. As a child, you don't learn grammar, you just learn from repetition, but you don't ask yourself why. When you are an adult, it's different. You always ask yourself, what's going on? Why I have to do this? Why I have to put this word here? Why before it meant this and now it means this different thing? So I think grammar helps with a lot of things. It's very, very important to me.
I'm trying to phrase this question in a way that shows that I understand exactly what you mean and I agree with you overall. but I want to see if this question can help some people who think about grammar maybe a little bit too much sometimes. If you are at an intermediate level, do you think that you should be thinking about grammar actively during a conversation?
During a conversation, I don't think you need to really think about why things are happening. It's something that flows. So you just need to listen and try to build your sentences and repeat and try to communicate. In my personal experience, when I speak English, I'm not thinking about grammar at all. When I make a mistake, internally I think, oh, I did something wrong, but I already know it, but I already said it. And I think that's also important to, if you want to speak a language, don't worry too much. Just say it first. And then later, you will remember that, okay, that was wrong, but I already said it. Don't try to stop and think and break the whole conversation because you are thinking about. That's why a lot of people, they complain that they take too long to speak. So they don't like to speak because they take very long and the other person is like bored or something. No need. That's one of the things that I did also when I was starting to speak English more fluidly and feeling comfortable with it. I stopped thinking. I just said it first, what I thought that it was right, just whatever I thought. Okay, this sounds fine. I just said it, and then internally I thought, okay, I messed up. But after, and then I realized that nobody cared. No one cared. I actually think that grammar blocks people a lot. They just block them. And that makes them not want to speak. That happens in Spanish all the time. When I see somebody thinking too much, I just tell them, just say whatever you're thinking, whatever it is, get it out. We can correct it later. We can think about it later. Just get it out. I'm probably going to understand. I'm 95% sure I'm going to understand. And he's right. I always understand what they mean.
Exactly, exactly. And so one of the other things that you said was that if you worry about the grammar and your thinking and you stop the conversation and now the conversation is weird, it would have been better to just say something with grammar that wasn't perfect than making the conversation slow or uncomfortable. And if you make that grammar mistake in the conversation, you're going to have that little feeling that you have when you know that you've made a grammar mistake. You're going to, ooh, I said that. And that's an emotional feeling. And when you have these emotional feelings, that helps you remember things better. So actually making these little mistakes in conversation can help you avoid making them in the future because you have that little emotional reaction and you think, ooh, I did that. I can't believe I did that. I don't want to do it again. I'm going to go home and review it or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are using social media to learn a language? Is there anything that you recommend doing or recommend avoiding?
So to me, it's great that people are learning from social media. What I don't think works very well is just watching a short video and scroll and watching another one and scroll and watching another one. I think you need to write something down as well. Like take it as a serious class, like a serious lesson. I think that a lot of people just see like it's fun, it's short, it's like a 1 minute piece of grammar or conversation. So they just do it like quick. And actually, there is a lot of information in there that you can extract from every video. Every little video has a lot of things you can extract. So if you really want to learn from it, you can. But scrolling up and down the whole time is not going to help too much. And great because there is a lot of free resources. You can learn anything, any conversation, any piece of grammar you want. I would just say that be careful because anybody can do it. So it can be a teacher, but it can be someone who has no idea. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. Is the other side of uh, social media. You have so much information, but you don't know which one is right, which one is wrong, which one is good, which one is bad. So compare, contrast a little bit there.
I fully agree with both of those. On the first point, so you mentioned not just scrolling, 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 but actually focusing and writing something down. And Remember that you're on social media, so you don't actually need to write on a piece of paper. You can comment on the video. And I think, at least on my page or on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, there are a lot of people who actually take the time to write sentences using the language. So if I make a video about sweater, sweatshirt, jacket, take a moment to write a sentence. I'm wearing a jacket today. I need to buy a new sweater. And leave a comment. I might see it. I might not. I might correct it. I might not. I might not have time. But even if I don't see it or don't correct it, you're still helping yourself remember it. And you can also look in the comments for more example sentences from the other people. Because if you listen to my one example sentence or two example sentences, you're probably not going to remember it. But if you listen to my sentences and then you read five more sentences that were written by other people, even if those sentences aren't perfect, it's still going to help you remember the words and the language better. And I think a lot of people kind of forget to do that. And what's one final piece of advice that you'd like to give to anyone who is learning a language, whether that's English, Spanish, or any language? What advice would you give to language learners?
I think the first thing I have to say is enjoy the learning process. Don't just hope for the results right away. It takes time. Don't worry if you're taking too long. Don't compare yourself to anybody else because everybody's on a different journey. Everybody has different needs and everybody has different schedules, and they might have 5 hours a day to learn and you have just 30 minutes. Don't compare yourself. So, very important, manage your expectations. There are no miracle 2 months methods to make you fluent in any language. Uh, think that if you are learning, especially in the internet or in a course, if you don't live in that country, it's going to take time to learn because you are not spending 24 hours a day learning. If you study 2 hours a week, that's just around 100 hours a year. It's not a lot, not a lot. So a lot of people say that I've been studying Spanish or English for a year. I still don't know a lot. Well, yeah, it's still the beginning. It's 100 hours. That's not a lot. And think that learning a language is not a straight line. You don't start and finish on top. There will be some bad days, some days that you forget a lot of things. There will be days that you are really good and you remember everything. So you have to allow yourself to fail too. Don't be angry at yourself because you don't learn anything. As you said before, you are actually learning, you just don't know it. You just don't see it. Maybe you expect too much of yourself. And then, as we mentioned before, don't be shy. Don't wait to be perfect. Don't wait to have the perfect grammar, the perfect English to speak. Just get it out, see how it goes, and learn from there. Can I say just one more thing that I just thought about? Don't ask why. Don't translate everything into your native language and ask why. They are different languages, they work differently. Think of it as if it's like a dog's language. Like if I say woof woof, it means hello. That's it. You don't need to think like. But in English we say how are you, and in Spanish we say qué tal, which doesn't make sense. It's a different language, so you don't need to ask why all the time and compare the two languages. You just need to learn that if I say this happens. That's it.
I'm glad that you added that because that's something that I want to say all the time, but some people don't like it when I say that. So I'm glad another person said that. Because as adults, we do want to know why. But you just have to stop sometimes and just accept that that's not how this language works. This language is not your language. It's a different one. They don't all work the same way. So yeah, I'm glad that you added that.
Yeah, this happens every time in every class. Everybody asks, but why? And I always tell them, look, if I say this, if I ask, ¿Cómo te llamas? You're going to give me your name. That's it. but actually doesn't mean what's your name. It means how do you call yourself? And people say, but in English, you don't say that. You say, what is your name? Yes, but if I say this sentence, if I say this phrase, the reaction, the result is going to be the same. And that's what you want.
I have one more thing that I want to add, which is very similar. Often, instead of asking for a translation, so instead of asking, how do you say sorry? Instead of doing that, tell them what your goal is, or tell them what situation you are in. So instead of saying, how do you say sorry? So in English speaking countries, you might go to a funeral and tell someone, I'm so sorry, meaning like, I feel sad that this person has died. I want you to know that I understand how you feel right now. But in some languages, if you say sorry at a funeral, that might just sound like, I killed them. I did this. I'm sorry, because that's not how
Mm.
you express your emotions in that situation. So yeah, in lots of the time, I really recommend saying, what should I say in this situation? Instead of saying, how do I say this thing that I say in my language? Because languages aren't just different, but the cultures are also different. Culture shapes language, and language shapes culture.
Exactly. I get that question too. Like, how do I say this in Spanish? And I tell them, we don't say that. We actually say something else that is not the same thing. So, yeah, I understand. It happens a lot. So, that's a suggestion. Don't do it. Just learn to accept that things are different, languages are different, and that's it. Just the meaning. I always tell people you have to separate the translation from the meaning. One thing is the translation, but another thing is what it means, the meaning. So I might say something that doesn't translate, but it means the same.
And if people would like to follow you to learn Spanish, where can they do that?
My main social media is on Facebook. I use Facebook most of all, and it's David Spanish Crew. I'm starting a YouTube channel as well, but that's still very, very new. I will post everything on Facebook, and that would be enough.
And I will put the links for the Facebook page and the YouTube channel in the video description below this video for anyone who is interested. So yeah, that's the end of this episode. If you found it useful, if you found it interesting, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and maybe check out another one of the episodes.